Hello, I'm your superhero critic. I'll stay super as long as you stay awesome. And before we start today's review, I want to take the time to thank a fan of mine who took the time to draw me. This is my very first piece of fan art in the 7 years I have been doing these reviews. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And if anyone else has stuff you want to tag me in, feel free to add me on Twitter and tag me away. I love this kind of stuff. And from me to you, thank you. That being said, let's talk about Man of Steel. In June 2008, WB met with many comic writers such as Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Jeff Johns, and Brad Meltzer in order to pitch ideas for a Superman reboot franchise after the flop of Superman Returns. But the massive success of the Nolan trilogy would end up having Christopher Nolan himself writing alongside David Goyer. Starring Henry Cavill as our lead Boy Scout, Man of Steel would be directed by Zack Snyder and be released in theaters June 14, 2013. And most people know that I do not like the DCEU because it's just dreary and boring and dark and gritty, and I'm just tired of seeing it over and over again. So that being said, let's finally take a look at Man of Steel. We begin with a woman giving birth while her husband mends to her. We then follow that man, Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe, who is begging his planet's leaders to listen to his theories on the planet dying and asking for the Codex in order to save the species of Krypton. However, he is interrupted by General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, who just murders the leader of the council.
This council has been disbanded.
On whose authority?
Mine.
I can't think of any other world leader that, puts their people in danger. I don't know, I just can't seem to think of who Zod reminds me of. Zod wants the council to do their jobs and seems to have become a dictator that Jor-El does not respect anymore. This begins a chase scene with Jor-El heading to where the Codex is, retrieving it from its holding place and making his way to his wife. Jor-El then takes their newborn baby and embeds the Codex into him and begins with a ship to send him into space. Zod and his men arrive and do what they can to stop Jor-El, but after a tussle, Laura pushes the button anyway to send the ship to its destination, pissing Zod off.
Oh, look at that. I've been impaled.
Zod wants the ship destroyed, but his man's ship is destroyed before it even hits hyperspace. Zod is then arrested and rants about the council letting Jor-El get away with everything, vowing to Laura that he will find her some to get the Codex back.
I will find him. I will find him, Laura. I will find him!
You better name that baby Waldo. Zod and his followers are frozen inside what looks like dick ships and sent into the Phantom Zone as Laura watches on as Krypton explodes. We then head to Earth where an adult Kal-El is posing as a fisherman who learns that an oil rig is about to explode. He breaks into it, saves the men in trouble, and does what he can to let the helicopter get away. We then head to a childhood flashback of Clark's powers manifesting and creating a huge auditory sensory overload, which causes him to freak out and hide in the closet until his mom can help calm him down. Present Clark then steals clothes from a random car before seeing a bush pushes him back into another flashback, this time him being forced to use his powers in order to save his school bus. Okay, let's get this over with. I cannot stand this portrayal of Jonathan Kent. To my knowledge, Jonathan Kent would not just sacrifice his own life and do the things he does in this movie. He would not endanger others just to protect Clark's identity. It's not the way Jonathan worked. He would rather Clark not reveal who he is, but in the scheme of things, in the long run, he would want Clark to do what is necessary to save people's lives. This Jonathan is not Jonathan. I could go on for hours arguing this point, but you get what I think. He's not Jonathan Kent. Let's move on. After the scene, however, John finally reveals to Clark his ship and hands him the crystal piece, and they talk about how Clark is clearly an alien, but reminds him that his choices will change the world and he owes it to himself to do so. Back in the present, Clark is acting as a busboy and watches a waitress get molested by a drunken asshole. After the dude fucks with him, instead of hitting him in the face, he just destroys the guy's truck. Clark Kent is a dick to trucks. We jump to the Arctic, where Lois Lane is working with a military outpost investigating an anomaly where Clark is secretly a member of, and that night she wanders out onto her own after spying on a man climbing the mountain. She eventually finds Clark, who himself is investigating the crashed Krypton ship, finding a hologram of his father. But Lois finds a security bot and spooks the crap out of it. That bitch is dead. Clark saves Lois in time and laser visions her injury, all while the ship leaves the ice and Lois wants to run the story, but Perry White thinks the story is a wild goose chase. Clark then meets Jor-El's hologram face to face, and it explains the history and downfall of Krypton. Clark is also shown the birthing pods, and he of course has way too many questions, which most of them are answered right before Jor-El gives Clark his suit, and we watch his first flight test that doesn't really end well.
That's gotta hurt.
After our hero finally successfully flies, we follow Lois tracking down some information on Clark, and we do the obligatory superhero funeral scene with the two of them discussing his choices before going to a flashback that I personally think is 100% against Jonathan Kent's character, where a huge tornado appears out of nowhere, and instead of letting Clark use his powers, he instead just lets himself get into trouble and just stands there and dies. Like I said, it's not Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Kent would not just stand there and let himself die just to protect Clark's identity. It's a dumbass way to kill off Jonathan Kent, and is an insult to that character. Period. End of story. Lois gets put on a suspension for ignoring Perry White before jumping to Clark and his mom having a heart-to-heart, then heading to the military discussing a ship near the moon, but it's not long before the entire planet sees it on the news, and a worldwide message is broadcasted from Zod, demanding Kal-El be handed over to him, outing him out as an alien among men. Lois is then tracked down by the FBI and captured.
FBI, hands up! Drop back, now!
Because, you know, people being kidnapped off the street by government officials, you know, they could never happen in real life. Nah, that's just in comics. Never happen in real America. We get yet another flashback of Clark being beaten up and bullied by a huge group of people, only to be saved by the bully from earlier. He, of course, gets another stern talking to about keeping his powers secret before present-day Clark goes to a minister and admits that he's the one the messengers are looking for. He gets some advice of taking a leap of faith and then turns himself in.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
That is so clearly an S, sir. You did not do good in spelling bees, did you? Superman talks with the general and tries to reassure him he is trustworthy. This allows Lois to go free as Superman waits for Zod to appear, where we meet Fiora, who has been sent to pick him up. But she also wants Lois to accompany them to Zod. Aboard the ship, Supes slips Lois the Codex piece, and Hero finally meets Villain.
Kal-El, you have no idea how long we've been searching for you.
I take it.
Nope, not at all, and frankly, I don't give a damn. Superman then goes through a bad reaction to the different atmosphere in the ship, and we go to a weird dreamlike scene where Zod tells him his version of how they survived Krypton exploding. Zod also explains what he wants from our hero, leading to a disturbing scene to show what will happen if our hero does not stop Zod. Zod's ship, of course, sends bogies down to Earth, and Kal-El learns the hard way the changes on the ship.
Here, in this environment, you're as weak as he.
That is speciest. Lois is thrown into a loading cell and uses the piece that Kal gave her that summons Jor-El, who is ready to help her navigate the ship by telling her when to shoot and what to do, giving her an escape pod to leave the ship. Kal then has another heart-to-heart with his father. We get it! He's Jesus! Superman saves Lois in time before she lands explosively, while Zod himself goes after Martha, looking for Kal's ship, which pisses Zod off for not having the Codex. But Superman quickly brings the fight to Zod, forcing him away, and through a 7-Eleven. With a now broken mask, Zod becomes weak to all of his new powers for not knowing how to control them and leaves the fight. However, Fiora and another Kryptonian follow Superman to the street, but before a fight can actually begin, the military get involved and just attack the aliens, which doesn't make them happy as they retaliate. But our hero saves one plane in the nick of time. First the Snoopies, now the pancakes! What is wrong with these building-smashing assholes? The fight in IHOP continues, as well as the needless building and city destruction with product placement. Superman is eventually overpowered with it being 2 against 1, but help comes in an unlikely ally as the military tries to take the Kryptonians down, only to get brutally massacred, with the commander only being saved at the last minute, and the military giving Superman one last way of... The male Kryptonian takes Fiora away in their ship as Superman walks in shame, but earning the honor and respect of the military. We then get a short talk with Martha and Clark discussing Zod's plans, with Lois revealing she knows how to stop them. Zod's man then reveals what really happened with the Codex being infused into Kal-El, forcing Zod to release the World Engine, beginning the atmospheric changes. see what happens when you deny climate change? Everything blows up. Superman lets the military know how to stop the engine, and they send a force to stop it, all while Zod is figuring out how to control his own powers, all while taking over Jor-El's ship. Superman then heads to the engine to stop the other side while trying not to become a Japanese anime character. The destruction of Metropolis continues as Perry and the rest of the humans are run from falling debris. Zod then kills the manifestation of Jor-El because he grows tired of his nagging. Perry does what he can to help one of his workers trapped under a building, and our hero then literally super headbutts the world engine, destroying it. Lois and the humans have issues with the piece working properly, while Supes attacks Zod's ship and takes it down. Fiora attacks the human ship while killing everyone on board, but they manage to fix the piece and make a sacrifice in order to save their planet, with Lois managing to fall out at the last second, also being saved at the last second. Is saved, but you destroyed our fucking city, so what's your plan for that? Lois and Clark share a random kiss because they shared so much on-screen chemistry, and before anyone has a chance to breathe, Zod appears pissed off with his plans failing, beginning our climax fight. The fight goes on for a while with even more building destruction as the two of them tear apart the city. The fight eventually lands in a public place with Zod then using his laser eyes to attack a set of people, forcing Superman to do the hardest choice possible.
Never.
Superman is distraught with what he was forced to do. The movie then skips to the future a little bit, where Superman demands the government to trust him.
How do we know you won't one day act against America's interests?
You know, that's one of the things I hate about films that focus on the American military. They always make it sound like America is the only country on the planet that fucking exists or even matters. I really hate that aspect of military within films. Can we please get a military that actually cares about the whole world and not just America? The Kents then go to visit Jonathan's grave and start talking about the past and the future. The movie then ends with Clark joining the Daily Planet with a little hint of the future of the DCEU. So that is Man of Steel. And to be honest, I don't see why people like this movie. It's boring, it's drawn out, and it's just dark and dreary and emotionless. Like, I want a movie and my hero to feel like a hero and not... I just want to kill myself every minute of the film. There has to be some sort of emotion outside of fuck life. That being said, we're gonna try to cheer some stuff up because it's Halloween right around the corner. This year, we're gonna dedicate the month of October to clowns. That should put smiles on people's faces. Yay. I'm your superhero critic. I'll stay super as long as you stay awesome. Although the film made almost $670 million back from a budget of $258 million, it still has mixed reviews from critics and still somehow launched the cinematic universe for DC films. Not that that led to any real success, and I personally cannot get into this franchise, and feel like there's just no happiness within this film. The entire concept of hope within misery cannot be shown if even when the hope is there, the atmosphere still feels miserable. So, with a lack of anything happy, and the outlook of life is miserable, whatever we do in it, this hopeful film, to me, just is a hopeless cause.